Today we are going to take it forward from our last episode. In this part of the series on leadership challenges, we are going to discuss perseverance and as it stands as an attribute in leadership. Recently, I had an opportunity of going through some of the papers published by the Stanford University. And one of the professors of Stanford and a scholar, Carol Dweck, has a team uh, come across certain findings after a research. And she talks about an indomitable attribute of leadership that is acquired. And she talks about perseverance as one such attribute. Now, this recent research that was carried out in Stanford, uh, um, I have also been studying it thoroughly, and I find that it is a refresher for many of us, and especially for the Generation X, Generation Y, and the millennials. I felt that this is generally understood by people in our generation that the generations X, Y, and the millennials often overlook or tend to overlook the aspect of perseverance in leadership. Uh, this is not because they do not want to persevere, but I think it is more because of their dependence on technology. So technology is a very important factor, as we saw in our previous presentation and our video also. Technology is actually overtaking all presentations. So a very high dependence on technology is actually sort of compelling these generations to overlook the attribute of perseverance. Now, Carol Dweck's findings says that if one is encouraged or motivated for the following, that is, hard work, strategies, focus, and persistence, growth or development occurs phenomenally. So, it is one thing which she essentially dwells upon is that hard work, focus, persistence, and strategies, of course. So, all these cumulatively, I think, would amount to perseverance. She also goes on to say that those who are motivated for their intelligence or talents are not more motivated learners, whereas those who are motivated and praised for the processes they engage in, their hard work, their strategies, their focus, their persistence, then they remain motivated learners. So that is a basic distinction that she comes around with. And I think she's making a lot of sense and stipulating these or enumerating these points because I think it does act as I earlier said, as a refresher to all of us. And we have tended to, or uh, sort of begun to overlook perseverance in a reasonable manner. So gradually we were actually walking away from perseverance. So perseverance is something which has been recognized by all, and it is a very ancient wisdom that recognizes perseverance, and therefore uh, we also see some little bit of research that we have done at our end is that perseverance is an attribute which is instilled in our ancient texts. And in these texts, we have numerous stories, we have numerous quotes. Uh, I'll begin by a quote from the Kena Upanishad, which says, Tasmai tapo damaha karmeti pratishtha veda sarvaya jnani satyam mayataman, which means this is actually a prayer, and it means that perseverance, restraint, and action are rooted in all the limbs to recognize the ultimate truth, the ultimate truth residing within us. So nothing is greater than the ultimate truth. But coming to talking about perseverance in the ancient texts, otherwise, in forms of stories and in forms of anecdotes, I think we've had numerous such stories, and many of them I will not be able to quote, but I will take the opportunity of quoting two instances. Um, One that which is in the recent past, about 150 years ago, there was a person called Shivadasa Sadhu who was taken as a slave from India to the Trinidad, and he was made to work there as a slave by the Britishers, obviously. So, because that in those days we were ruled by the Britishers, and Shivadas had a very strong desire of building a Shiva temple in Trinidad. Every time he went to construct the temple, he was obstructed by the government there because they said that the land did not belong to him. So, having made numerous such attempts with a lot of persistence and perseverance, he eventually decided to reclaim land from the sea. And what he did was he carried heavy stones like the Vanasena in the Ramayana. He carried heavy stones and started putting them into the sea. And you can imagine the kind of perseverance that man had. He finally was able to build a small piece of island just next to in the middle of the sea, next to the coast. Now, where he eventually built the Shiva temple, and that is even now existing in Trinidad. So, and it's become a heritage site for many of the tourists. But what is important here is the perseverance with which um, we in India have been taught to look at things and you know develop ourselves. These other story is, of course, that of the Ratnakar dacoit, Ratnakar dacoit, and he used to rob. He was a robber, and when he came across, as the story goes, he came across Narad, who said that if you give up these sinful activities, you will achieve God. And what by doing these sinful activities or indulging into them, would you be able to get anything or would you be able to achieve anything? And let me tell you, Narad said, that if you uh, Ask your wife and children for whom you're doing this. You um, are robbing people and you're working for, you're committing these sins. So these activities you are indulging into are for your family, your wife and your children. Would they ever be your partner in taking the punishment for the sins that you're committing? So he went and asked his wife and his children, and he was refused. So nobody would become a partner. This is your way of earning a living, and you're doing it. We never told you to go and rob. That is when the awakening came to Ratnakar, and he started, developing his uh, disgruntlement towards what he was doing, and eventually taking or more pious activities that he wanted to. So he is also known as the Adi Kavi because he later became Valmiki. Why he became Valmiki is because when he started uttering Ram as a name that came to him from Narad, he kept on uttering for years together till he attained that salvation, and he achieved a state of mind where he came out into the state of wisdom, and he quit his earlier actions and he became Valmiki because he was uh, while he was doing his penance, he was actually covered by termites, and it was a termite hill which was built over him, and which is also known as the termite hill is called the Valmiki, and that is why he became Valmiki, and that is what the story is about. Rishi Valmiki, who was earlier the dacoit, the robber, Ratnakar. So this is again a very big story, which leads us to understand how perseverance has been helpful, and how perseverance has helped growing or developing a personality which has become famous the world over. So it is not a new find. That perseverance is, a very, very important or significant attribute in growth and growing towards leadership. It's not a new find, but definitely, yes, it is a refresher. Thank you. Thank you so much.